the amount, increase the gauge, and so on. And so, um, and therefore, for a variety of reasons, I think that this gauge model is that doesn't seem to really align incentives in a good way. And so, getting to shell points, um, the way I would describe shell points is, first of all, it's not a token, right? It's merely a way to quantify the contributions of liquidity providers during the shell guarded launch. And we have all these airdrop hunters doing doing all these weird like bot Sybil attack type things. We have lots of people like asking us constantly, like, what about the airdrop? Like, what do I do to get airdrop and stuff? And so we figured we would just, without making any like formal decisions on an airdrop, at least create like a system that added transparency to like what at least we think is valuable. And that's what the shell points are. And so one of the advantages of having a shell points type system is that we can implement this off chain. I mean, it can be based on things happening on chain, but like the implementation, the logic can live off chain. And so that means you don't have to worry about building like a gas efficient algorithm to calculate shell points. We can calculate shell points in AWS, which is way way cheaper, which gives us more flexibility. It also lets us, not have to worry about the robustness of the code, right? Like, you do liquidity mining in a smart contract and you make one little mistake, and then the next thing you know, hundreds of millions of dollars have been stolen. And so if you're doing this off chain, we don't want to make mistakes. We're doing everything in our power to really vet the infrastructure and think through all the possible like edge cases. However, like it's definitely easier from a security standpoint to build it off chain. Um, and it also like lets us take into account things like the dollar value of assets. Um, like doing this on chain is like pretty expensive and maybe not even possible to like take into account like, what's the price of ETH today, or what's the price, how many dollars are in this pool versus this other pool. Doing that on chain is not so easy, but doing it off chain becomes feasible. So then we can get away from mechanics like the stable, like curves, like gauge system, where instead of having to determine, um, how much certain pools get, we can just look at like, okay, well, how much money, what's the dollar value of your holdings, and use that as an input instead of like gauges. So, um, I think is maybe, I guess that's not really like a short description of the differences between Uniswap, Swap, or Uniswap, Curve, and Shell, but hopefully it was at a level that is beneficial and useful for people.
I want to also throw in that we do have another one of the shell team here. We've got a Sean, who is one of our smart contract engineers working on Shell V2. In case anyone has any technical questions, or Kenny or I say something that's wrong, he can step in.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, as Kara said, I'm one of the devs here. I primarily write Solidity code, and I'm currently also working on our front end. So yeah, I'll give it back to Hunter and the rest of the team to continue this AMA.
Yeah, thank you, of course, for that explanation, and then welcome Sean to the stage. I think so. It's pretty obvious just from hearing you speak, Kenny, that the smart contract design that you guys have coming out is quite novel. And then of course it sounds like Proteus is going to be a really good example of that in like a live environment. Do you guys have any like particular like I guess, like ideas for projects that are looking to use shell for smart contract design, and maybe like an idea of what can actually be created that wasn't possible before, without using this new type of smart contract design?
Ooh, Kenny, do we want to talk about
Um,
MEV stuff or not yet?
Ooh, that sounds fun. I
uh,
don't know. That sounds
we'll
fun.
just we can do a grab bag of a few things. Yeah,
Sounds
so
good.
I think I would say in so I'm gonna put the MEV stuff off to one side for a second because that's a whole nother like rabbit hole to go down. And believe me, we'll go down in a second. But um, uh, let's putting that off to the side. I would say independent of the MEV stuff, in general, it's it's not so much that there's things you can only do in shell so much as if you tried to do them outside of shell and the ocean, they would be super difficult and maybe like infeasible. And like an example of something that is difficult to do outside a shell but easy to do inside a shell is consider like if you wanted to create an NFT AMM. Um, and the way this AMM would work, there's a few ways you could build one, but the way I'll propose is, first you take your NFTs, you put them into something I'll call a fungibilizer. This is the best name we have for it. If you have a better name for this, we're, very open to suggestions, but we'll call it a fungibilizer. So let's say you take like our toucan NFT. You give us your NFT, toucan NFT to the fungibilizer. It gives you back, say, 102 coin. And if you give it 102 coin, you can take out any NFT held in the fungibilizer. So basically, we've taken this non-fungible asset, turned it into like a fungible token. Um, and again, this you'd only use like floor toucans or floor cans, as I believe someone on our Discord proposed. Um, so you don't use this for like the floor NFTs, not for like unique or super rare ones. And so now you have some two coin. And then you can just combine that, put that two coin into, say, a Proteus AMM. And now you have an AMM that lets you trade from different stable coins and ETH into two coin and then two coin into NFTs. And this gives you all sorts of cool benefits. Like now the NFT has better liquidity and it also has price discovery. And if you wanted to build this in shell, all you really need to build is the fungibilizer. And our engineers our engineers say this could be done in 20 lines of code. I'm going to be like more conservative and let's say like 50 to 100 lines of code to build this fungibilizer. Um, and so that's it. That's like kind of all you need is just to build that fungibilizer, and then boom, now you have an NFT AMM on the ocean. If you want to build this like outside of the ocean, outside of shell, it's a whole mess. I've talked to a couple of teams working on this type of design. I won't mention any names, but basically what they said to us was, they had to migrate from like one AMM platform to another AMM platform, and took them months and like like tons of like thousands of dev hours, and it was a very expensive and long process to do that migration. Whereas if you were to build this on, say, the ocean, say on Shell, um, you know that migration is seamless. It's literally, it takes you can literally like route trades through any AMM built on top of Shell. Not even, it doesn't even have to be Proteus AMMs. If say Uniswap comes along and builds a Uniswap AMM on top of our platform, you could just seamlessly swap between a trade, transition from like Proteus pool to like a Uniswap pool seamlessly in real time. Whichever one had the best price, you could just do that for your users. And so like literally like the migration cost is zero if you were to build this on top of our platform. And that's just one example. So like I think another example of things that would work really well on top of our platform are things like structured products, where you have to combine AMMs and like lending pools and sequence your transactions in fairly complicated ways. Like that, if you build the lending pools and the AMMs on top of the ocean, if you then you wanted to take those modular primitives, as it were, and create structured products like options, derivatives, or what have you. Shell v2 makes it very easy to do that from a smart contract standpoint. And yeah, I think those are, I think, some examples of stuff you can do that are really difficult and expensive to do outside of Shell, but super easy to do inside of Shell. Like, also, if you wanted to do like a Zapperify type thing, where you take one asset, you trade it to another asset, and you deposit it into like a lending pool or what have you. Like, all of these like little Zapper features, if instead of building your protocols like isolated as like these monolithic things that do accounting and business logic together, but you built them as modular primitives on top of our platform, you don't need like to write any additional smart contract middleware to connect these protocols together. So it's going to save a tremendous amount of dev hours in addition to improving the user experience. Okay, so that's the non-MEV stuff. I'll give a little tease of the MEV stuff, and if we want to learn more, we can go into the MEV stuff. But just I've been, don't want to spend too much time just rambling on to you guys. I want to make this, short and snappy. But basically, the MEV stuff. There's this really cool feature about the ocean that we've learned relatively recently, within the last like month or so, which is we think of MEV right now, it's kind of like the user versus the bot. The bot is trying to take the MEV bot is trying to take as much of the user's money as it can. And if the user doesn't use MEV protection, or they don't do it optimally, the bot will swoop in and take value from the user. And what we realize is that using the ocean, there's a way to actually incentivize MEV bots to, instead of trying to take the user's money, to incentivize the bots to try and execute and find the most efficient possible trades for the user. So the user can say, hey, I want to trade 100 DAI for 99 USDC. And instead of the user having to find, the most find the most optimal path through all the different DEXs and AMMs out there, the MEV bot can go and figure out like, I can do a trade that gets, 99.9 USDC for 100 DAI. I will go and execute that trade on behalf of Alice, the user, and I will take the 0.9 USDC efficiency that I found, and I'll keep that for myself. And so now, effectively, instead of having these like MEV bots be like bandits trying to take your money, they're now going to be like bodyguards that are ensuring, safe passage through the turbulent network of, decentralized finance markets.
Awesome. Oh wow, this is great. So a little bit to unpack here, and of course, Kenny, again, thank you for those different things that you could do, I guess, with this new smart contract design. I think so. I guess my general question in here, kind of actually relating to a little bit of both, actually, of what you mentioned, both the MEV stuff and a little bit of the kind of the fungibilizer thing you mentioned earlier, which I've never heard of, by the way, fungibilizer. Pretty good, pretty nice word. Is how does being on a layer 2, such as Arbitrum in this case, help with either of those things? And I guess just to briefly, the reason why I asked is because I know, the fungibilizer thing you mentioned that, doing anything related to like an NFT AMM outside of Shell is just going to be way too expensive. So I think, kind of just to build on top of that, Is it just like the cost of the fees that helps? Is it like, the fact that it's an L2, or I mean, I guess I'll let you answer that. What do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, like cheaper gas is always a good thing, right? No one likes expensive gas except for the miners, and so right off the bat, that's an easy win. I think also just having that low latency that Arbitrum provides is also exceptional. Um, it's so frustrating, like using layer one. You just have to wait like sometimes you have to wait like minutes just to get your transaction mined, and it's just. Whereas Arbitrum, it's like just happens instantly, and so that's obviously those are kind of the obvious things. I think that having low gas costs is really complementary to our system in that like Cairo asked me a similar question, and I tried to explain it to him, and I felt like I totally botched it, and even I was confused by what I said. So I'm gonna try and give this explanation again, and
That's a fair
disclaimer,
disclaimer.
if yeah, if this doesn't make any sense, maybe ask me like 3 or 4 more times throughout the next few weeks, and by like the third or fourth time, I'll probably be able to give you something that like is at least 50% intelligible. So the way I think about it in my head is, how I guess like fundamentally, I think that the more primitives, financial primitives you can compose for a given gas cost, the better. Not only that, but I feel like it's not like you get diminishing returns to the number of primitives you can compose. I think you get increasing returns, which is, if you can compose 5 primitives versus composing 10 primitives, I think being able to compose 10 primitives for the same gas cost or is more than twice as good as being able to compose 5 primitives. I tried to give an argument to Cairo as to why I think that way, and it didn't make any sense. So I won't, unless you really are curious as to my reasoning. I won't try and like explain it, other than to say that like it's kind of like a network effect thing, where like if you double the size of your network, you more than double the utility of the network. That's called like that's the kind of the essence of network effects. And so if you more than double the amount of primitives you're able to compose together for a given gas cost, you more than double the like utility to users and developers. And so getting back to like Arbitrum, that means like let's say Arbitrum, I want to say it reduces the cost of gas by roughly 10 to 100 times, let's say. So 1 to 2 orders of magnitude, probably depending on the day. And so that means the amount of primitives you can compose for the same gas cost is now 10 to 100 times higher. And that means the utility from composability is more than 10 to 100 times higher on Arbitrum than on mainnet. And so every little bit of gas optimizations we can get, I think, are going to have huge impacts on the utility of our system. And so that's what we really like about Arbitrum. And we released a blog post yesterday, and I think this thing about low latency and cheap gas, you could apply that not just to Arbitrum, but to like other places. Like I think Polygon, Avalanche, Optimism, ZK, Syncs, and why Arbitrum out of all those options? Well, I think bridging between like ETH layer one to another layer one seems like a pretty hard problem that isn't solved. And case in point, look at all the myriad hacks. I think like over $1 billion have been hacked from bridges, and so building bridges is really hard. And so that's why we don't want to go to like a side chain. And the nice thing about rollups is the whole point of a rollup is to have a secure bridge and inherit the security of layer one. And of the rollups, like why did we decide to go with Arbitrum? Well, other than the fact that we we've got to know the Arbitrum team, and you seem like pretty cool dudes, and gals. Um, for us, Arbitrum also seemed like the most mature from a technological standpoint, and we like to push the envelope in terms of like the kind of innovations and ideas that we try out, but one place we don't like to push the envelope on is putting like user funds at risk. We really want to be on we really want to be conservative when it comes to like people's money being put in being exposed to open source software that we've written, and so felt like Arbitrum was the best option from that security standpoint, as well as having all the performance that we wanted.
I always thought it was because you guys like the color blue better. But,
Don't
Yeah,
tell anyone that.
our blues do go really well together. That's true. It's true.
a match made in heaven. There you go.
And a robot looks, or sorry, not a robot. An astronaut looks surprisingly good in the Shell universe. Surprisingly at home, I was surprised how well the Arbitrum Shell art that Cairo and our illustrator Alex put together.
Oh, I mean, I think the shell world imbues anything with a little touch of magic. So hopefully that can spread across the ecosystem as we launch.
Oh, 100%. Yes. And again, definitely shouts on that amazing artwork, and definitely likewise. I think what's really cool about Shell, I kind of see Shell as like this sleeping giant in a way that's going to kind of like allow the masses to like bring
Aw.
DeFi 3.0 to fruition. No, really, because I mean, like and I hate to use like those quote unquote marketing terms. Shouts to Cairo there, but it's like like I know that a lot of people were throwing around DeFi 2.0 like I don't think it was last summer now, and you're referring to these new protocols bringing these new types of primitives out here. But I truly think like we're at the point where it's like you're really limited, especially by just the amount. I mean, a lot of people are just limited by Ethereum generally. So obviously, we're obviously really happy to be empowering protocols like Shell to be then again empowering other people to build on top of it. The ocean in this case, to build these really, really new, innovative, different things. And I think that's what's really going to spark even more interest on DeFi than there already is. In this terrible bear market.
Oh
we're in.
yeah. I mean, why did this bear market happen? Of course, you can make a lot of arguments, but it's hard to deny that like centralized crypto funds mismanaging what they held or building unsustainably sort of, you start to see a lot of the same things that you see in TradFi. And what's the sector of this space where, where the money is and how it's being held is completely transparent. I mean, it's DeFi. And I think DeFi, however much it's affected by the downturn in the short term, stands to really, really gain from the reputational benefit and the mechanical benefit of how it functions.
Definitely, no, 100% agreed there. I think at this point it'd be nice to maybe touch a little bit more on the higher level things, quote unquote, before we kind of go more into like the more nitty gritty stuff, like the community question side. But if you don't mind, what kind of ecosystem collaborations have you guys done thus far? And which projects on Arbitrum would you guys love to collab with in the future? I guess post launch maybe.
We haven't invested too much resources to date on like collaborating with other projects. I feel like in terms of order of operations, first we want to like ship the core smart contracts and make sure they work and get them really battle tested, dog food the technology ourselves, build out some reference implementations and such. And I think you want to do that before anyone really starts to build on top of our platform. However, that doesn't mean we're not thinking a lot about it, and we haven't sort of, made some overtures. Some I can talk about, some, keep some of our cards close to our chest. one project that we've already worked really closely with, and I feel, similar level of kinship as we feel to the Arbitrum team is the Stratos team. This is, they've been super important to the shell community because that's where I think a lot of people buy and trade their toucans. And so shout out to the Stratos team.
Yes.
I absolutely love their UI UX. It's a pleasure every time I go on that site. It's a pleasure. Even if the toucan price has gone down since I last checked, I still enjoy logging on.
I mean, I enjoy that because I can get toucans at a deal. So, really we're winning either way. No, they're great. And it was actually Arbitrum, it was you guys who introduced us to Stratos. I remember coming down to NFTLA, fully not being an NFT project, just kind of seeing what was out there. And I mentioned to the Arbitrum guys in the lobby of the hotel there in the few minutes that we had, hey, yeah, we're working on this April Fool's thing. We're working on this, we want to give a gift to the community with this one day free mint. And they were like, oh, you should talk to, these guys. And literally within 3 hours, we were working on it together, which is how responsive and how excited they are to collab.
Yeah, no, totally. I definitely got to give a little shout to Stratos there as well. I mean, their UI is definitely next level. I would say it's definitely underappreciated. They should definitely get a lot more props than they do. And for what it's worth, the toucans I think have the most volume on Stratos.
Yeah,
With over
I think we were
47,000 of them.
80% of their volume at some point, which is, as they get traction, going to go down. But it's also a testament to just how much toucan trading there's been. I think there's been an average of 120 swaps just on uh, Stratos per day since, and that's not a spike. That's a pretty consistent, over 100 trades. It might be a little lower this week, but generally that's been the case, which is pretty cool for liquidity. I also want to say, kind of tying back into your question about who do we want to build on Shell and what can you build on the ocean. I will say there are some kinds of projects that I think are really symbiotic with what we want to do. One is like Kenny was saying, any kind of managed funds or anything like that. I know I was just issuing words of warning, but I do think there's a place for responsible projects that want to optimize yields by moving funds back and forth across the right LP token, things like that, providing liquidity strategically. It can be a lot of work to do that as a single individual, and we don't have any interest in managing funds. That's not a subjective decision we want to make with other people's money. So there's definitely a lot of, again, symbiotic room for that. I also think marketplaces, one thing that you can do with the ocean and the way complex atomic transactions work is you can have a marketplace where someone doesn't need to swap to ETH by hand in order to buy an NFT that they want. That can happen completely under the hood in one single transaction, where there's a swap from whatever denomination of currency they want to buy in straight to ETH or whatever it is. And then for them it's boom, you can buy it with DAI, you can buy it with USDC, whatever you want.
Awesome. Yeah, I think and it goes without saying that obviously, part of you guys being built on Arbitrum is we're more than happy to connect you guys with all these different teams that we work with. But I think at least on the I guess more the marketplaces slash kind of toucan piece there, I'm very interested to know, or at least to maybe give a little more light on obviously the toucans were first launched on April 1st, kind of a joke. But from my understanding, the use case of them has changed quite a bit since launch. Can you maybe expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we when we saw the community response, we realized wow, this really needs to become a thing. There's it was just really humbling to see how much everyone. I mean, we really liked the toucans internally when we were building them. We really wanted to get them, but it was very humbling to see how much other people wanted them. And I guess we felt like they were called government toucans, and we felt like we might as well use them for some governance on the community. And you know, the Shell v2 core protocol hasn't come out yet, um, but we figured doesn't mean that there's things that the community can't vote on, and the community's voice like can't become an important input into the stuff that we do. So I think like the first vote we had was like, who should we follow on Twitter? And kind of like the context here is that before this vote, we used to only follow one person on Twitter. It was Cardi B. It was another. I don't want to say it was an inside joke, but it was something that like we thought was I don't know. At least I thought it was funny. I don't know. Not funny. I thought it was entertaining. But Cardi B, she's a wonderful person to follow on Twitter, but one of the downsides is that she's periodically, getting banned from Twitter, and so she was banned, and so we weren't following anyone, and we figured, we should really follow someone. We have this like government toucan. Why don't we let the government toucans decide who we follow on Twitter? So we had a massive vote. And it came down to I think like the top options were I think Kanye West, Vitalik Buterin, and a Chinese Twitter account called Big Player DAO, and Big Player DAO was the unequivocal winner, and that's who we follow on Twitter. And then we've been using like the toucans ever since as just a way to gauge, how the community feels about certain issues, and also, to kind of guide a lot of our community building efforts. And I think what we kind of have realized subsequently over time is that like a governance token might be great at like aligning incentives around like how to structure the core protocol, but it's less good at building a community. Like people, whereas like NFTs are really good at building community, and I think that's because people identify with their NFTs. Like people make their NFTs their profile picture. That's like literally their identity. And in contrast, like you don't see anyone with like a MakerDAO profile picture or like a Unitoken profile picture, right? And so like governance tokens like don't really create that sense of identity and community. And so we kind of have realized that even though, that's not how we thought about our NFT when we created it, we've realized that this is like a really amazing way to build our community and get our community involved in what we're doing. And we have, it's unfortunate that Cairo dropped off the call, but we have all sorts of really cool ideas going forward, with the Toucan NFT and other tactics, other tactics and activities as well to really bring the community in. And the last thing I'll say is, going back to like the vision of an internet monetary system, the only way that like becomes feasible it's not just a technological challenge, but it's a social challenge to get, people to buy in and really feel like this monetary system works for them and isn't just controlled by a cabal of elites the way maybe our existing system is. And I think the only way that this internet monetary system can be viable is if there is, a decentralized global community behind it. And so that's why one of the reasons why we invest so much into building our community and not just getting our community like engaged, but getting them involved in the stuff that we do.
No, yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's such like an eye-opening kind of like like kind of story in a way that you told there, or it's like this initially kind of April Fool's joke that you thought would be just funny to kind of put out, that had nothing to do with like the actual like protocol itself turned into this huge thing that actually grew your community. That's now going to be there when the actual protocol launches. It's like the perfect kind of symmetry there that like in a way that DeFi and NFTs somehow have, even if they're not directly correlated, like at the protocol level. Very interesting stuff. But I think go for it, Kenny. What do you got?
Oh, I just wanted to give a shout out to Ishan, who he was the only person on the team that understood NFTs, and so we're like, oh yeah, we should do like a toucan NFT, and Ishan was like, look, if we're gonna do an NFT, it's got to be this way and that way.
Yeah, the first toucans did not look all that great in my opinion, and then we're like, we got to do more traits. Like, yeah, 47,000 of the first toucans would definitely have not been minted. I can assure you that much.
I can definitely tell you're the one that knows about NFTs since you're up here with a mutant ape. Very beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
Love the teeth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just being into NFTs, like I'm definitely excited to see what NFT opportunities that the ocean can unlock. Like I know that Treasure DAO wants to create like a pretty big ecosystem, so I think that would be like another like cool opportunity to see like how that could possibly meld together, you know.
Oh, 100%. That sounds like it'd be absolutely insane. I know they're planning on releasing like an AMM, like so like a regular ERC20 AMM, but I can imagine maybe you guys working on some sort of like NFT one specifically as well, or who knows, something more. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So before we go to roadmap/community questions, I had one just like general thought that I want to kind of throw at you guys. And I'm not sure if Sean, this may be actually, it sounds like it may be a little bit more of your territory, but Kenny, you've been throwing a whole bunch of like technical alpha that half of it I don't understand, so maybe you'll get this one too. But let me just ask it. What are your thoughts on the Solidity language in general, and what kind of future do you see for it in a world with multiple languages starting to come into the crypto space? When I say multiple languages, I mean we all know, for example, like Starkware, I think is using Cairo, and this this whole bunch of different kind of L1s and whatnot are kind of coming out with their own languages, and essentially, I don't know. People think people don't seem to be the biggest fan of Solidity, from what I understand, engineers, but it just it's kind of like the norm now. So I'm truly interested in your thoughts on this, and either one of you can take it.
Go
for it, Sean.
Yeah, I feel like this is more suited towards me because I'm the one who writes the most Solidity out of the two of us. So having written it for like over like a year now, I feel like I've gotten used to it to the point where I don't mind it at all. And I can see how if you're completely new to like programming or like even like blockchain programming, it can be kind of intimidating because it's not like other programming languages you've seen in the past. So that's why maybe a language like Viper would be more appealing to someone who has like Python experience, right? However, I think that the norms that Solidity has established like forces you to like think of writing your contracts in like a better way, if that makes sense, in terms of like the security and how you should be thinking about like deploying smart contracts in an adversarial environment. So I don't have enough experiences with other programming languages to like give you like a good breakdown of whether I think those languages also enforce the same kind of like guidelines in the way that they make you write the code. But I feel that Solidity is like, it's like old reliable, like it gets the job done. And if you put in the work to understand it, then it's really not that bad.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is I think building like another language that can write smart contracts as well as Solidity is going to take a lot of work because so much time and energy has gone into like making Solidity good for what it's supposed to do, which is write smart contracts, and lots of trial and error too. That I think like building a replacement won't be an easy task and will require a sustained investment over a long period of time. And I think based on my like super limited experience with Solidity, is a lot of the quirks of Solidity, are just based on like the quirks of the EVM as well. And so if you wanted to like build a better mousetrap, you might have to start with something that's not the EVM and work your way up. But I really don't know. I'm out of my depth, so before I say anything that makes Ishan's eyes roll, I'm gonna just leave it at that. That I think that if you want to build a competitor to Solidity, or a replacement to Solidity, it's gonna take a lot of work and take some time.
Amen to that. Thank you, by the way, for that answer there. I just figured, it made sense to ask. If I was to ask anybody, it would make sense to ask you guys. And Sean, thanks for jumping in. Actually, I'm glad you answered that too. I think then in that case, can we get like a little bit of like a little near-term roadmap / kind of what users can start expecting from Shell in the near future? We spoke about a couple things already, I know, but maybe, I don't know, if you have some dates, feel free to throw them out. If you don't have to. You don't want to give too much alpha if you don't want to. No worries.
Well, I was talking to I think Ben, the chief scientist at Arbitrum, at our joint meetup at ETH New York, which is cool. And he was like, look, the way my philosophy is, this is the Arbitrum, Ben talking. My philosophy is I don't like to give until we're like in the last like mile and it's just a matter of like checking boxes. I don't like to give dates because you just never know. And so I'm gonna repeat that until we get to the very last mile. I don't want to give dates exactly, but pretty much there's smart contracts are done. There's one more feature that we're implementing, shell points. I think probably in the next couple of weeks we'll have that ready on a public testnet, but that's not a hard promise. That's just it seems to be that would be my best guess in terms of like the rate of progress we're making and what's left to be done. And then once the shell points are ready, it probably won't be more than like a week or two after the shell points are on testnet to bring them to mainnet, unless we uncover some like flaws or problems in the testnet, public testnet that we have to like ameliorate. And guarded launch. So I guess high level, the way the guarded launch is going to work is we're building, pretty much everything we've built is completely from scratch. There's no, it's not like we like forked an existing like protocol and then added some incremental improvements and then shipped it. Like almost everything is built from the ground up. And so, and that's how we've been able to like come up with all this cool stuff is precisely because we built it from the ground up. However, that also means that like we don't have the benefit of years and years of use to know that whether what we built is like actually secure in practice rather just in theory. And so we want to take a fairly conservative and gradual approach to rolling this out. And so the first step, we're going to have a TVL cap, and I don't even, we probably won't even have like this is a bit of an alpha drop. We haven't talked about this publicly, but we probably won't even have like AMMs available in the first like opening day. It'll just be like wrapping assets into the Ocean ledger, the Shell V2 like accounting system. And then because like if we did AMMs in the exact same time as the Ocean, then we're pretty much testing two new systems simultaneously, which usually when you have two new things together, it's not like you're like adding risk, but you're multiplying risk. And so like you want to I think do it relatively incrementally. So once the wrapping and unwrapping phase has been proved out that like this seems like pretty stable, then we'll add some stablecoin AMMs, and then maybe we'll add some ETH stablecoin AMMs, and yeah, we have a couple other cool ideas of stuff we can do, but that's kind of that's kind of the high level roadmap in sort of the short term.
Wonderful. Yes, yes. I'm sure people are very excited to finally use Shell, whether it's wrapping tokens or solving in the AMM. I'm definitely going to be doing some of that myself. When you guys go live. I think I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of your time. We think we just hit the hour mark. Did you guys want to do some community questions, or do you want to stop here? What do you think?
Sure, I can answer questions. I got time.
Yeah, same. I'm down for questions.
All right. Yeah, so you guys heard it. If you have any cues for Kenny or Sean, feel free to either raise your hand or leave something in the AMA chat. I think we do technically have a question in the chat that was technically like the first question I had to ask you, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun to hear your answer to this. If you're able to explain a shell in just a few sentences, how would you put it? And I think you kind of did that already, but it was definitely it was a little more than a couple sentences. So if you want to challenge yourself and try to explain shell in like 2-3 sentences.
Sean, you want to take a crack at it? I already had my chance and I failed.
Okay, I'll take a chance at it. Shell Protocol is a composability solution that allows you to easily move value between things called primitives, and I'm going to define primitives as any things that can convert one form of value to another, whether this be an AMM, a lending market, an NFT market, or stuff along those lines, right? So currently, you would have to build custom adapters to move between all of these platforms. If you've used DeFi Saver or Instadap, then you probably know what I'm talking about. But the reason that these platforms are limited in how many things they can accommodate is because of how difficult it is to continuously build adapters. However, with the ocean and having a central hub, you can just worry about the business logic of each one of these primitives and not worry about moving tokens around, which allows you to create new primitives that compose very seamlessly into existing ones. Yeah, that's it.
Very nice. I thought that was very good, actually. When is Sean going to be promoted to CMO as well as a Cairo?
I think it's about opportunity cost. If you think he's good at, Sean's good at promoting and explaining Shell Protocol, you should see him writing Solidity code.
That is a fact, I'm sure. But in that case, then I'm actually going to go ahead and ask you then the last cue here. Unless I think someone's actually saying something right now. Let me see what they said there. Well, just in case, for anyone who does want to get involved in Shell in any way, shape, or form, from a community standpoint, how would someone go ahead and do that? What's the best way?
I think from a community standpoint, most of the action happens on our Discord, and I'd say join our Discord. If you want to participate in the course and actually have an impact and a voice in kind of the direction of the protocol, procure a toucan and you can vote. And I think I think in general, when the guard launch happens, there'll be other ways to participate and contribute. But I would say, step one, join our Discord, and you can participate in the community with or without a toucan. But if you have a toucan, you'll get to vote on things, and you'll also get a Discord role. I think as we build out and get more technologically mature, there'll be also ways you can contribute to the actual technology that we're building. I don't know, Sean, anything else?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Until the guard launch rolls around, or if you want to use the testnet, which is up right now, Just staying plugged in through all our platforms would be the most ideal way. So when you're ready to go for the guarded launch.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure actually to leave a link to the Shell Discord in the AMA chat as well for those who want to join. That being said, Kenny, Sean, I really appreciate you guys kind of joining us today. Of course, appreciate Cairo as well, who's not here anymore. But yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and for all you guys who stayed up to 2:30 in the morning, much appreciation for your time. It means a lot to us to have people, care enough about what we're doing to, sacrifice their sleep, and we'll keep trying to do our best to, earn the attention that you're giving us and earn future late nights listening to AMAs.
That was beautiful. I can't say anything after that. I don't know what else to say. Okay. All right. You guys have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Hunter. We really appreciate this opportunity to talk to your community.
Likewise, man. I'm happy. We'll be very excited to amplify that announcement once it comes out, so everyone can start using it for sure.
Sweet. All right, everyone. Peace out.
All right. Adios, guys.
Aloha.